Good evening and welcome to World Now at 4. I am Aidnan Lubem. First, the headlines. On the headlines, Telecom's leads as FG rakes in 127.03 billion naira tax from calls SMS. Still on the headlines, bridge collapses, cutting ceremony in Congo. Still on the foreign scene, 2 dead, 6 injured in Hong Kong crane collapse. While on sport, in international football, 4 coaches get sacked in 24 hours. And now the news in detail. The Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, has stated that an estimated 3 million internally displaced persons would participate in the 2023 general elections. The Commission's chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, stated this in Abuja at a stakeholders meeting on the 2022 revised framework and regulations for voting by IDPs. Yakubu explained that the revised framework had taken into consideration several developments since the last review and validation in 2018.
To incorporate not only the displacement of citizens arising from armed conflicts, but also natural emergencies such as flooding. Thirdly, to align the framework with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, specifically Section 24, subsection 1, which empowers the Commission to ensure that, as far as practicable, no Nigerian is disenfranchised on account of displacement by emergency situation.
Also speaking during the event, representing the civil society organization, Sarah Ja commended the effort of INEC in achieving an inclusive election in 2023.
Committee on the review of internally displaced persons voting framework embarked on the process of systematically revising the framework and gathering data on IDPs, including identification of affected polling units and wards registration areas, so as to plan on how best to provide them with electoral services across the states of the Federation.
A member of the House of Representatives, Aisha Dunku, also spoke on the importance of the IDPs and the forthcoming elections.
The efforts of the Commission subsequently yielded fruits in the amendment of the Electoral Act 2022. The legal provision provided an excellent foundation upon which to build a sustainable and strategic framework for IDP voting in Nigeria. The policy document proposed by INEC to guide the conduct of IDP voting operations and bring the IDP communities into the voting net is worth applauding and support from all stakeholders.
The Commission also added that it will display voter registration across the country once it completes the ongoing automated biometric identification system to weed out all double or multiple as well as ineligible registrants. The Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, that is ASUP, on Wednesday accused the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Federal Universities of misinforming the public about the state of salaries of chief lecturers in polytechnics. In a statement signed by the Secretary General of ASUP, Abdullahi Yalwa, and made available to news correspondents in Abuja, the union noted that the claim of the VCs that chief lecturers in polytechnics and more than professors could cause issues during the negotiations of polytechnic lecturers. According to ASUP, the position of the CVCNU was made in order to justify the legitimate demands of the sister union, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, that is ASUP, for a wage increase. ASUP also noted that the CVCNU had access to salary structures of the different cadres of staff across the tertiary education landscape and therefore has no basis to indulge in needless extrapolation. The agitation for wage review in the university system can indeed proceed without such fallacious reference by parties, as such can only breed needless rivalry in the sector. Some gunmen in the early hours of Wednesday kidnapped the chairman of Kanke Local Government Council of Plateau State, Henry Gutip. Gotip was said to have been kidnapped at his residence at Kwang in Jos North local government area of the state after a sporadic shooting by the gunmen to scare away the residents. It was gathered that the gunmen stormed the residence of the chairman and whisked him away. The family is yet to be contacted by the abductors. However, the police public relations officer, Plateau State Police Command, Alfred Alabu, confirmed the incident to newsmen, saying the command had dispatched a tactical team to search for him and ensure he is safe in returning. He said the police commissioner is on top of the situation as he had sent a team of police officers to the area who are working in collaboration with Vigilante to rescue the council chairman. Findings show that Gotip is also the state secretary of Association of Local Governments of Nigeria. When we return, news from other parts of Africa. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now to news from other parts of Africa. Kenya's newly elected president says he has a phone conversation with outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta about the transition. William Ruto said they spoke about the just concluded election and the democratic transition through a tweet. Kenyatta, who backed Ruto's rival Raila Odinga for the presidency, had not spoken to the newly elected president since he was declared the winner of the August 9 general elections. In a media briefing on Monday after the Supreme Court confirmed him as the winner, the president-elect said they had not spoken for months. On the same day, President Kenyatta sent out a statement giving an assurance that there would be smooth transition without mentioning Ruto or congratulating him for the win. It was an unpleasant sight on Monday when sharply suited dignitaries gathered to inaugurate a footbridge in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa, on Monday, only for the structure to collapse beneath their feet to the dismay of onlookers. Just as an organizer cut the ribbon at the ceremony in Mount Ngafula district, the bridge buckled, both its handrails broke off, and the central section slumped into the stream of a couple of meters below. Spectators shouted in apparent glee as the VIP struggled to get off the crumbled rack. Nobody was reported to have been hurt in the incident. Meanwhile, a charity group in Democratic Republic of Congo says reconstruction has begun on a new footbridge and that the construction would meet safety standards. We now move to other parts of Africa, of the world after this break. And on the world stage, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday held positive ties with Myanmar as he met with the country's junta chief Min Aung Hlaing in Russia's far eastern city of Vladivostok. Putin disclosed this during the meeting on the sidelines of the Eastern Economic Forum, where he described Myanmar as a long-standing and reliable partner in Southeast Asia. Min Aung Hlaing's visit comes as both governments face diplomatic isolation over Moscow for its February military intervention in pro-Western Ukraine and Nadia Pidal for a military coup last year. Myanmar junta in a statement noted that the two leaders friendly and openly discussed cooperations and exchanged views on relations and the international situation. Since the coup that ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's civilian government in February last year, Myanmar has faced Western sanctions and a downgrade in relations. As Moscow's ties with the West unravel over Ukraine, the Kremlin is seeking to pivot the country towards the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Authorities in Hong Kong confirmed Wednesday the death of 2 men and at least 6 others injured after a Hong Kong tower crane collapsed at a construction site. Authorities confirmed to newsmen that the accident took place shortly after 10 a.m. when the crane fell onto a container, which then toppled on top construction workers. According to the police, one man was certified dead at the site in eastern Kowloon and another died on the way to the hospital. The police also added that 6 injured construction workers were taken to hospital, while another man was still trapped under the debris and awaiting rescue. Authorities say they are still investigating the cause of the accident. Still to come on World Now at 4 is business news. Stay with us. You're still watching World Now at 4 on Hughes TV. Now to business news. Telecoms was declared the largest subsector in information and communication sector, which contributed about 80% of the total sector's 18.94% contribution to the GDP. The subsector contributed 76.29% and 79.49% to the sector's nominal and real GDP in the first half of 2022. Nigeria's federal government said they made 127.03 billion naira from value-added tax on calls, SMS, data and other information and communication services in the first 6 months of the year. Speaking on the contribution of the sector in the second quarter of 2022, the National Bureau of Statistics, that is NBS, said in terms of sectoral contributions, the top 3 largest shares in quarter 2 of 2022 were manufacturing with 33.08%, information and communication with 18.98%, mining and quarrying with 10.60%. The information and communication sector comprises of the activities of the telecommunications and information services, publishing, motion picture, sound recording and music production, including broadcasting, according to the NBS grouping for gross domestic reports. Still talking business, as Gambian efforts to reach international markets in order to showcase and market their goods intensify, some Gambian traders have hailed the country's negotiations efforts through the Ministry of Trade to begin trading under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that is AFCFTA. Lamin Dampa, the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Trade, in an interview explained that the reasons why Gambia is yet to trade under the AFCFTA, saying there are so many unfinished businesses. He explained further that COVID-19 slowed down the negotiation process, but everything is picking up as the Gambia is one of the countries leading the negotiation from 2017 to 2020. Still talking business, the European Union proposed a price cap on Russian gas on Wednesday after Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to halt all energy supplies if they took such a step, raising the risk of rationing in some of the world's richest countries this winter. The escalating standoff threatens to drive up sky-high European gas prices further, adding to already eye-watering bills EU governments are paying to stop their energy providers collapsing and preventing cash-strapped customers freezing in the cold months ahead. Up next on World Now at 4 is Sports News. Stay with us.
Good evening and welcome to Sport News on World Now at 4. I'm Richard Badung. World Cup trophy arrives in Senegal 2 months before the competition in Qatar. The former French international David Trezeguet unveiled it to the eyes of the Senegalese supporters who came in large numbers to welcome the golden trophy so coveted by the Lions of Teranga. The Lions of Teranga, the defending African champion, are one of the 5 African nations competing at this year's World Cup. Sadio Mane and his teammates share Group A with the host country, Qatar, the Netherlands and Ecuador. Last February, Senegal won the very first African Cup of Nations, that is AFCON, in its history. The much-coveted trophy will be put back into play next June with the start of the qualifiers of the next AFCON, which will take place in Cote d'Ivoire. The African champions will be the ones to kick off the competition against the Netherlands on November 21. If this adversary stands as a tough opponent, Ecuador and the country hosting the competition, Qatar, also in the group, stand as less insurmountable teams. Away from that story, 4 coaches in the international football scene have been asked to check out in the last 24 hours. Chelsea have sacked manager Thomas Tuchel on the new owner's 100th day in charge after their 3rd defeat of the season. A club statement said the owners believed it was the right time to bring in a new coach. Meanwhile, German side RB Leipzig have also fired head coach Domenico Tedesco a day after a 4-1 home thrashing by Ukraine's Shakhtar Donetsk in their opening Champions League group match. It comes months after he led them to German Cup success, but a dreadful start to their league campaign has yielded 5 points from 5 matches in the Bundesliga. The Leipzig-born Rose won 2 Austrian titles with sister club Red Bull Salzburg. In the same vein, Sevilla have also parted ways with Julen Lopetegui after 3 years in charge of the Spanish outfit. Elsewhere, Sinisa Mihajlovic have also been sacked by Bologna following the club's poor start to the season. Mihajlovic was diagnosed with leukemia for the 2nd time in March and has since been fighting the illness. The Italian side remains winless after 5 league games with 3 draws and 2 defeats, sitting on 16th in the Serie A standing log. And before we go, Serena Williams' defeat at the US Open on Friday in the final match of her glittering career was the most watched tennis telecast in 43 years history of the station. A 3rd round loss to Australia's Ajla Tomljanovic at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York averaged 4.8 million viewers from 7:15 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and peaked with 6.9 million viewers in the 10:15 p.m. Qatar hour, according to reports. Williams played alongside her sister Venus and took the tennis world by storm when they emerged from the courts of Compton, California as teenagers and went on to dominate to change the face of the predominantly white sport. The winner of 23 Grand Slam singles tournaments, Williams transited the sport and a likely departure from competitive tennis to focus on growing a family and business interest led to a flood of tributes from athletes, celebrities and politicians. Serena was hailed home and abroad, with fans not minding a last defeat, but saw her as the greatest tennis player of all time. And that's your sport news on World Now at 4. Back to Ainan Lubem for the rest of the news. I'm Richard Badung.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now to the rest of the news. An Italian nun has been killed during a suspected jihadist attack in northern Mozambique, in which a church, a hospital, and 2 schools were destroyed. The Comboni missionary said Mara de Kopi, 84 years, who had been in the country for nearly 60 years, was shot in the head during the attack in the city of Chipene in Nampula province. A jihadist conflict began in 2017 and has recently spread from the oil-rich Cabo Delgado province to Nampula. The Comboni sister said 2 other nuns, 1 Italian and 1 Spanish, had escaped to hide in the forest with a group of young girls. And that's World Now at 4, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. We told you on the headlines, Telecoms leads as FG rakes in 127.03 billion naira tax from Coles SMS. Bridge collapsed during rebound cotton ceremony in Congo. We also told you 2 dead, 6 injured in Hong Kong, crane collapse. On sport, we let you know in international football, 4 coaches get sacked in 24 hours. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Hills TV, Instagram at Hills TV, follow our YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Ayman Lubem. Thank you for watching.